Hi guys, welcome to Bake with Chefs by APCA Malaysia. I'm Chef Tan. Today I'm going to show you how to make chocolate mandola. For making a chocolate cookies, we need cake flour, icing sugar, salt, cocoa powder, and cold butter. For the chocolate mandola, I will need to start with chocolate sablé first. For the chocolate sablé, it's easy. It's a rub-in method, so I'm going to put all the dry ingredients inside the bowl and mix with the butter. So I will start with flour. Make sure we sift the dry ingredients as in powder forms, icing sugar, then followed by cocoa powder, and with the cold butter, mix everything inside, and I'll put into the mixer. For the chocolate sablé, it's easy. Now I'm going to mix everything into a dough. As you can see now, the sablé forms a dough, and when we mix right, it cleans the side of the bowl, means it's done. I will take it out and place in between two parchment paper and roll it to around 2 mm. So after, knead a little bit with my hand. As you can see right now, the dough is firm and it's not sticky to our hand. Because if we are using a soft butter, the dough are going to be more sticky, and I'm going to divide to half. Now I'm gonna roll in between two parchment paper and roll it to around 2 mm. Always turn around when we roll the dough, as this way, right, the dough can expand more evenly, and we can control the thickness of the dough easier. And now I'm going to check the thickness of the dough and feel it a little bit with my hand to make sure everywhere is similar thickness. If not right, I will use a rolling pin to push to make sure everywhere is similar thickness. After roll to 2 mm, I will keep on the tray and keep inside the freezer. And after freeze, I'm going to cut to a round shape and bake inside the oven. After the mandola keep in the freezer and it's already setting, I take it out. Make sure we keep on the cold tray, as this way will help the mandola not going to defrost too fast. And I'm going to remove the parchment paper from both sides. Then, by using a round cutter, around 5 cm for the diameter, I will cut the mandola and place on a seal pan. After cut the mandola, now I'm going to keep the mandola dough inside the chiller for another 10 minutes to make sure the dough is chilled, and I will bake it right away. It's important to keep the mandola chilled before baking, is to make sure we don't change shape while the baking. After keeping the mandola inside the chiller for 10 minutes, Now I'm going to place inside the oven to bake it with 160 degrees for around 18 to 20 minutes. Now the mandola dough is baked, I'm going to take it out from the oven. And I'm going to leave it on the wire rack to cool down. For the hazelnut praline, we need homemade hazelnut praline, milk chocolates, and cocoa butter. Now I'm going to start to prepare the filling, hazelnut praline. The first, I'm going to melt the cocoa butter. This time I'm going to melt by the pot. It also can by using a microwave to melt it. By using a low heat slowly, we are going to melt the cocoa butter. While waiting for the cocoa butter to melt, I'm going to transfer the milk chocolate into a bowl. After the cocoa butter is fully melted, I'm going to pour it into the chocolates to melt the chocolate. Then after that, I'm going to mix with the praline. Now the cocoa butter is fully melted. I will remove from heat and pour it over the milk chocolates. Shake a little bit to make sure all the cocoa butter cover the chocolates, and I'm going to leave it for around 20 seconds to make sure the cocoa butter transfer the heat to the chocolate and melt the chocolate. And now I'm going to start to mix it. Mix nicely and make sure the chocolate is fully melted. Then I'm going to add in the hazelnut praline. After mixing everything, now I'm going to start to temper it and make sure the temperature is below 25 degrees. So I'll pour everything on top of the marble. It's a little bit different to temper the praline if compared to a chocolate. As chocolate, right, we pour 70 to 80% out from the bowl to temper, but for praline, we pour everything. And the temperature of praline, it need to be slightly lower than chocolate. Usually, I need to cool it down to below 25 degrees. And for this case, right, I'm going to pipe into the mandola dough. I need to make sure the mixture start to get thick. First, I'll spread it wide to make sure it cools down as fast as possible. Then after that, I'm going to scrap it back to the center. As this way, we make sure we create crystal molecule by creating a lot of friction, and also to make sure the temperature is even everywhere. And stir nicely. Now I'm going to check the temperature again. Still slightly warm, 26. I'll spread it wide again. Repeat this step for a few times to make sure the praline start to get thicker and it reach a piping consistency, and the temperature make sure it's below 25 degrees. So now I'm going to check again. 24. So now temperature reach 24 degrees, is almost there, because I just want it to get slightly thicker. So I will do one more time. As you can see, the mixture now start to get thicker than earlier. So I will collect back everything. and I will scrape back into the mold. After scrape everything into the bowl, first thing, mix nicely inside the bowl to make sure the crystal molecule is even. As right now, you can see the mixture start to get slightly thicker than earlier. And now I'm going to transfer into a piping bag and pipe onto the mandola dough. Now I will transfer the praline into a piping bag. And over here, I have the mandola dough already baked. So now I'm going to pair it together. So when we pair it before I pipe, make sure the part which is contact with the seal pan is at the bottom and the top part. So like this way, we are going to sandwich the mandola. So we make sure the mandola is easier to dip and there's a flat surface. Then now I'm going to start to pipe the praline into the dough. Cut a small hole. Make sure we pipe enough filling, just like macaroons. After pipe the filling, now I'm going to sandwich it with the other dough on top. Now I'm going to leave in the AC room between 18 to 25 degrees Celsius for around 2 hours. After the praline sets, I will start to dip into the chocolates. For the mandola, after keeping 2 hours in the AC room, as you can see now the filling, the mandola, the filling is setting and it's not going to move. So now I will start to do the dipping. Over here, I have tempered milk chocolates. Stir nicely. After stir nicely the chocolates, now I'm going to start to dip the mandola inside the milk chocolates. Over here, I prepare a small palette knife and one dipping fork. Put the mandola inside the chocolates. Press until you reach the surface. Overturn it. Then dip the base again. Then after, get the palette knife, tap it. And tap on the surface also to avoid sticking. Like this way, right, we make sure we have a very thin layers of coating of chocolate on top of the mandola. So try to shake off as much as possible of the tempered chocolate, as we want to have a very thin shell of chocolate on the mandola. After that, clean again with a palette knife and clean nicely. To put it down, slowly hold, let it slide down, take out the dipping fork slowly, and when it comes to the end, move it according to the shape of mandola. Stir nicely, put the mandola in, push it down to make sure it covers until the side of the mandola, cover fully, and overturn the mandola. Tap and remove the excess chocolate on the side and the top of the mandola. As when we do like this way, right, the chocolate inside the bowl will pull down the chocolate that we coat on the mandola. Then after using a palette knife, clean off the excess chocolate at the bottom. Then slowly slide down the mandola. After dipping, as you can see, The shape of Mandola, we have a very nice round shape and we have a sharp edges for the chocolate coating, because if we have a very thick chocolate coating on it, you will see the shape of the surface is going to be round but not having a sharp edges. It's very important when we do a dipping right. One of the very important points is to make sure we have a nice and sharp dipping. So now I'm going to keep the Mandola inside the AC room for around 1 hour to set the milk chocolates. Then after that, I'm going to pipe the tempered dark chocolate on top of it. After the Mandola is setting, now I'm going to use a tempered dark chocolate. I put inside the piping bag and I'm going to drizzle the dark chocolate on top of the Mandola. So I'm going to cut a small hole of it, very small, so we can pipe a thin line. So I'm going to drizzle the dark chocolate on top of the Mandola. After pipe the line on top, now I'm going to keep the Mandola in the AC room for around 2 hours. After it sets right, then I'm going to start to present on the plate. So guys, now the Mandola is set, I'm going to transfer to a plate. If you see there's excess chocolate on the side, just clean it out. So now I'm going to cut the Mandola into half and see the layers. So you can see we have a nice layers of the sablé and a thin layers of the filling. Make sure we have enough filling inside, otherwise it's going to taste very dry. And the sablé is chocolate flavor, filling is hazelnut, so we have a nice flavor of combination between chocolate and hazelnut flavor. And a thin layers of coating to give extra crispiness inside the Mandola. This is the Mandola cookies. I hope you enjoy it. See you again.